Hello everybody, it's me, Riffraff Hornhelm, and I'm back again with another presentation from the Dwarven Vault. And today we have a monster review. Today we're going to talk to you about the giant tick. Yeah, really. This is the giant tick as comes to us from the original monster manual for use with basic Dungeons & Dragons and advanced Dungeons & Dragons, or what we typically call 1E today. Now, this is crazy stuff. A giant tick has 2 to 4 hit dice. Hit dice. That's pretty amazing. Now, giant doesn't mean like, the size of a house type thing. They are categorized as small, but small is still up to about 3 feet. That could be some pretty large ticks. And you got to watch out for these things. They're pretty nasty. They're another one of these creatures that could do a lot more damage to you in a hurry than you realize. Now, they show up in groups of 3 to 12. They typically hang out in like dense wooded undergrowth, trees, things like that, but always in dense dark forests or underground. And they drop onto their victims and insert their proboscis into your body and withdraw blood. Ew, how nasty. And because they can drop in numbers, they say 3 to 12 or something like that, and you can be hit by more than one of these, you could take a fair amount of damage pretty quickly before somebody's able to brush them off. And then you can stomp on them and watch the blood fly. Nasty. And of course, if they touch you and start taking blood, you have the chance of getting a disease. And in fact, you have a 50% chance of getting that disease, and it will kill you. It'll be fatal in 2 to 8 days if you don't make your save or have a cure disease spell cast upon you. May not be a very big creature, but it can have some pretty big results. And the EU factor is rather high on a tick, to say the very least. I mean, the very idea of seeing a 1 to 3 foot diameter tick, oh, yuck, that's disgusting. And the fact that they come in numbers of more than one is frightening, to say the very least. Now, of course, this isn't something you're going to run into every day. If you have fellow adventurers with you, you have people to help you get rid of the ticks before they can do any significant damage. They're something that can be dealt with without too much issue as long as you're not by yourself. Now, when they attack, they do 1 to 4 points of damage if they successfully hit you. Thereafter, they do 1 to 6 points of blood draining damage, and they will continue to drain blood from you until it's equal to the amount of hit points that they have. And once again, this can be a maximum of 32. So at that point, they drop off. If you're trying to get them off prior to that, you either have to use fire to coerce them to let go, you have to kill them while they're on their victim, or you have to immerse the tick completely in water, in which case it will let go as well. So pretty much like real world. Except, well, on steroids. Talk about gigantism. Oh my. So these are a pretty scary little creature, and not one you want to run into. But once again, if you have a group of people with you, your ability to deal with this is a lot better than if you don't. They don't have any resistance to magic or standard weapons. But once again, it doesn't let go. Anybody who's familiar with ticks in the real world knows that if you're very bad at removing a tick, it leaves its proboscis and mouth parts behind in your body while you get rid of the rest of the tick's body. And that's a point of where you can get all kinds of infections and all that kind of good stuff. Now, us dwarves, do we run into these? On very rare occasions we have. But it's pretty much the same for us dwarves as it is for everybody else. If you're in a group, no problem. If you're not in a group and you maybe don't notice this right away or have difficulty reaching it, it can cause some problems. Pretty straightforward, honestly. But of course, there's more than us dwarves out there, and we went out to the greater gaming community to see how giant ticks were used in games. And in talking to the Hornhelm community, the dungeon masters came back and said, "Oh, I like these. These are kind of fun." They didn't rank them very high. They said, "Yeah, maybe a 2." But at the same time, they were fun because it really grossed out the players. They would work extra hard to get rid of ticks compared to some other creatures because of the, I guess, the ew factor. In talking to the players, they came back and said giant ticks generally weren't much of a problem. They actually gave it a 1.5 to a 2. That's probably more realistic because, once again, if you're in a group, getting rid of these isn't as hard when you have help. Makes some sense to me. So the giant tick is kind of a fun thing to throw in there. It doesn't really cause a great deal of havoc, but it can be some fun depending on the circumstances, especially if you combine this in like a 2-stage encounter. The ticks drop and distract people, and then you have something else that shows up. Cool creatures, though. I mean, giant ticks. Ah, come on. 1950 science fiction. Gotta love it. So that, my friends, is the giant tick. We hope you found today's presentation to be interesting, educational, amusing, all that kind of good stuff. If you did, please be so kind as to leave us a like. Consider subscribing if you haven't. Share with your friends. Consider leaving us a comment. But by all means, come back and see us again real soon. We very much appreciate your kind support. Thank you. And remember, dwarves rock!